how a single platform changed safety forever. At first, it didn't look safer. No dramatic reinforcements, no visible armor, no bold claims about invincibility. And that's why most people miss what was happening. Because the real revolution wasn't how this car survived crashes. It was in how it prevented them from happening at all. To understand why this platform quietly reshaped automotive safety, we need to revisit an assumption the industry had relied on for decades. Safety was reactive. You crash, then the car protects you. Crumple zones absorb energy. Airbags deploy. Systems activate after failure begins. That logic had saved millions of lives. But it also accepted something as inevitable: loss of control. This platform challenged that assumption at its core. Instead of treating accidents as unavoidable events to be survived, its engineers asked a different question. What if instability itself could be interrupted long before danger became visible? The answer wasn't a single technology. It was architecture. The platform was designed as a unified safety system from the ground up. Structure, suspension, braking, steering, and software were developed together, not as separate layers added over time. Every component shared data. Every system understood not just its role, but the vehicle's overall state. Early simulations revealed something unusual. The platform didn't wait for thresholds to be crossed. It responded to subtle imbalance. Weight transfer that felt insignificant. Steering inputs that hinted at hesitation. Micro slips that never reached the edge of traction. The car corrected behavior before drivers felt threatened. At first, engineers assumed the data was exaggerated. They reran tests, changed conditions, introduced aggressive scenarios. The result remained consistent. The platform reduced loss of control events not by overpowering the driver, but by smoothing the path they were already taking. Test drivers described it as invisible. They didn't feel assisted. They felt steady. That steadiness became the key insight. Safety didn't need to announce itself. It didn't need alarms or intervention. It needed coherence. Systems working together so naturally that danger struggled to form in the first place. But this idea carried uncomfortable implications. If safety could be built into the platform itself, not layered on afterward, then many established strategies were suddenly outdated. And the industry was about to realize that protecting people after mistakes was no longer enough. Preventing the mistake entirely had become possible. And once that possibility existed, safety would never be defined the same way again. As the platform moved from simulation to reality, the implications became impossible to ignore. Real-world testing confirmed what models had hinted at. Drivers weren't avoiding crashes because they were more alert. They were avoiding crashes because instability never had time to grow. The platform distributed forces so evenly that sudden weight shifts softened automatically. Braking felt progressive even under panic. Steering inputs translated into smooth arcs instead of sharp corrections. The vehicle didn't react to danger. It dissolved it. Data from early fleets revealed a pattern safety analysts had never seen before. Near-miss events dropped sharply. Not impacts, not airbag deployments. Moments that usually precede accidents simply didn't occur. The platform removed the conditions that make mistakes escalate. That forced a reevaluation. Traditional safety systems waited for thresholds. Skid detected. Impact imminent. Intervention triggered. This platform worked below those thresholds, inside the gray zone where most accidents are born. It operated quietly, continuously, and cooperatively. Regulators struggled to classify it. Crash tests showed improvements, but not dramatic ones. Structural ratings stayed familiar. What changed was harder to measure. The absence of incidents, the lack of emergency maneuvers, the calmness of driver input over time. Insurance data noticed first. Claims declined not just in severity, but in frequency. Low-speed collisions dropped. Single-vehicle incidents declined. Drivers weren't becoming more cautious. They were becoming less stressed. That reduction in stress mattered more than any new airbag. When people feel stable, they make better decisions. When the car supports balance instead of waiting for failure, panic has less room to exist. Critics raise concerns. Was the platform masking driver skill? Would people rely too heavily on invisible assistance? Engineers answered with evidence. Over time, drivers adapted to the smooth feedback loop. Intervention frequency decreased. Skill didn't erode. It improved. The platform wasn't replacing judgment. It was reinforcing it. And that realization unsettled long-held beliefs. Safety had always been framed as protection against the worst moment. This platform reframed it as guidance away from the worst moment altogether. Once that shift occurred, everything else felt incomplete. Airbags still mattered. Crumple zones still mattered. But they were no longer the center of safety. They were the backup. And for the first time, the industry had to confront a radical idea. The safest crash is the one that never begins. That idea triggered a quiet transformation across engineering teams and safety councils. If crashes could be prevented before they formed, then measuring safety after impact was no longer enough. The entire framework felt outdated overnight. Engineers began studying behavior instead of damage. They analyzed hesitation, overcorrection, and delayed reactions. They mapped how small imbalances turn into loss of control. The platform provided something new, continuous insight into how instability emerges, not just how it ends. This shifted development priorities. Instead of asking how strong structures should be, teams asked how balanced systems could remain under stress. Suspension geometry was tuned for forgiveness. Control algorithms favored smoothness over aggression. Even tire behavior was reconsidered. Not for peak grip, but for predictability at the limit. The platform taught a subtle lesson. Drivers rarely crash because they push too hard. They crash because they panic. By reducing panic, the platform reduced accidents at their source. Steering felt intuitive even in emergencies. Braking felt linear instead of binary. The car guided drivers through uncertainty instead of confronting them with alarms and sudden corrections. Safety researchers took notice. Studies showed lower cognitive load during critical moments. Reaction times improved. Drivers made fewer abrupt inputs. The platform didn't override behavior. It reshaped it gently through consistency. That reshaping challenged tradition. Legacy safety systems were built as guardians of last resort. This platform functioned as a partner throughout every second of driving. It never waited. It never slept. And it never announced itself. That invisibility created resistance. Some argued that safety should be obvious, that people needed to feel protected. Others worried that invisible protection would go unnoticed and undervalued. Marketing teams struggled to explain a benefit that couldn't be demonstrated in a crash test video. But the data refused to cooperate with skepticism. Fleet studies showed sustained reductions in incidents year after year. Not because drivers learned the system, but because the system learned how to stay balanced across endless variations. The platform wasn't just preventing accidents. It was teaching stability. And once stability became the foundation of safety, everything built on reaction alone felt incomplete. The industry had crossed a line it could never uncross. Safety was no longer something that activated during danger. It was something that existed continuously. And that realization set the stage for the most profound shift yet. One that would redefine responsibility, regulation, and what it truly meant to protect human life on the road. The shift reached its climax when regulators finally acknowledged what data had been showing for years. Traditional crash metrics no longer captured the full picture. Safety had moved upstream, from impact to intent. New evaluation methods emerged slowly. Near miss tracking, stability metrics, driver workload analysis. For the first time, safety was measured by what didn't happen. The platform had forced that change. Manufacturers began designing vehicles that prioritized calm over correction. Steering systems resisted panic. Braking systems smoothed indecision. Chassis balance became as important as structural strength. The philosophy spread quietly, reshaping cars that never shared the original platform. Responsibility shifted too. Drivers weren't treated as variables to be corrected, but as partners to be supported. Machines learned to expect human inconsistency and soften its consequences. The road became a space of cooperation rather than confrontation. Looking back, the platform's impact became clear. It didn't make cars indestructible. It made them considerate. By preventing instability before it escalated, It redefined what safety meant. Protection was no longer something that arrived too late. It was something that existed constantly, invisibly, and without judgment. The platform that changed safety forever never advertised its power. It simply removed danger before anyone noticed it was there. And in doing so, it taught the industry a lesson that now feels obvious, but once felt radical. The safest systems are not the ones that save you after failure. They're the ones that help you avoid failing at all. So what do you think? Should safety protect us from crashes or from the mistakes that cause them? Subscribe to join the journey. How